Okay, I think I am recording and live. It is time for this week's Q&A, and I decided we'd talk about insulin resistance, blood sugar, and metabolic health. What the heck does that mean? Spit on myself. Because I thought that this could be pretty confusing. And so I saw that there were a lot of people who commented and sent me messages in the DM. So it seems like this is something that people are really interested, but no one asked me any specific questions. And so I love when you ask questions because then I know which way to gear the conversation. So it fits you. So why did this strike me? So number one, I'm learning it in my classes right now. Of course, I'm getting certified as an insulin resistant specialist. I can't think of what the word is. Anyway, how well does your body handle sugar? How well do you produce energy inside your cells? All of that is so important. That can lead to different things: diabetes, early aging, Alzheimer's, and then the little things like belly fat, stuff like that. And so it's something that we need to take seriously. I think I saw somewhere that 92% of Americans are considered metabolically unwell. 92%. So if we are all interested in this, we probably need to really look into our metabolic health. And so one of the ways we can do that is looking at our blood sugar and making sure our blood sugar is in balance. This is something that you can do and take control of. I recommend that you get an annual doctor's visit, an annual blood panel, and ask for a hemoglobin A1C. It is not standard. You do have to ask for it. You can get a fasting glucose. Make sure you don't eat anything before you go to the doctor's appointment and ask and get your fasting glucose. They automatically check it, but they don't always tell you to fast before you come. But that is going to be an important number, and we'll talk about that one in a minute too. And then if you can check your blood sugar, you can buy these cheap kits. This one's from CVS. I have it ready because I'm going to show you how to use it in a minute. But you can buy these at Walgreens or CVS or something like that. And then a lot of people are getting continuous glucose monitors, or called CGMs, that you can wear on the back of your arm or on your abdomen, or even the back of your thigh, depending on what company it comes from. Usually they say on the back of the arm. Now that is by prescription only here in the United States. Other countries, you can get them over the counter. But there are some things that you can do to get you can, number one, ask your doctor if you can get one, and they cannot write you a prescription for it. But there are some companies that can help you. If you want more information about that, then just send me a message and I can help you with that. If you live in the United States. So some other interesting facts that I came upon were, I don't know how old this is, but it's from the American Heart Association. The average American eats 22 teaspoons per day, and the average child 32 teaspoons a day. That is over 10 tablespoons. So that's 3/4 of a cup of just sugar. We're talking about added sugar. So I mean, filling up a measuring cup of 3/4 of a cup of sugar and letting your child eat that every day. That's what the average child is eating. So I started looking at that, and I was like, you know what? I do have maybe a teaspoon of maple syrup once a week in something. Or maybe a teaspoon of honey. Even though we eat mostly, we do eat whole food plant-based, I do include some honey. I don't consider myself vegan, even though I eat kind of that way. So I just realized my recording is recording the back of my phone. I'm gonna have to hold my phone again. I hate having to do that. But anyway, if I eat 1 teaspoon a week, it comes out to something like, I can't remember, I'll have to do the math, but when it came out to like 4 cups of sugar in a year. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's only a teaspoon of maple syrup a week. That can't be right. Let me do the math really quick. Let me see. So that would be, a teaspoon is about 4. Oh, you know what? I did my math wrong. So 4 teaspoons times 52 weeks a year, divided by 3, that would be 69 tablespoons divided by 16. It is 4 1/3 cups of sugar. Holy cow, in a year. And so it is stretched out over a year, but that is a lot of sugar, and that's only 1 teaspoon of added sugar. That's nuts. Anyway, that's crazy, isn't it? And so we look at this and we're talking about just added sugars. And so for most people, it comes in the form of added drinks, come in sweet tea. How many people drink sweet tea? Sweet tea, candy, sugar, candy bars, cakes, cookies, and pies, fruit drinks. You have to be really careful when you look at juice. Sometimes there is sugar added to that. Dairy, desserts, milk, Starbucks, and then other grains that have sugars added to them. So if we are in good metabolic health, what should happen? So number one, our pancreas is what usually manages our blood sugar, but also the liver, the adrenals, and your brain. So all of those are involved in managing your blood sugar balances. When your blood sugar gets too high, then insulin is released. So that's anytime your blood sugar, anytime you eat, every single time you eat, your blood sugar, if you have some calories in there, there's some energy, your body wants to use that energy. It secretes some insulin that says, hey, we need to move some things into your cells. So think about whatever you're eating is you getting ready to go into your house and the door is locked and you have to stick your key in the keyhole, turn the lock, unless you have a keypad. Anyway, you have to do something to get into the house. Your house is your cell. And so that's what your sugar. So we eat something that's, we're driving into the driveway. We have to get out, get into the keyhole, get through the door. Well, what should happen is you stick the key in there. That is your insulin. You turn and you walk in the house. And then the blood sugar gets too low. So then the insulin is turned off. And so this could be affected by genetics, stress, lifestyle, diet. All those things can cause insulin to go up. And we'll talk about those in a minute. But we should eat, the blood sugar goes up, the pancreas secretes insulin, insulin escorts glucose into the cells, so the blood sugar goes down, then leptin levels start to go up. We've heard about leptin and ghrelin back in the 90s when they had that drug called fen-phen that came out. Anyway, your leptin levels go up and that triggers fat burning. So we want that to happen. And then your pancreas stops secreting insulin. You have an increase in energy because that glucose is being converted to energy. And then you start to get hungry. And so then we start to eat again. Well, while leptin's going up, we're hungry. That's when we have fat burning. So we want to feel that, not long term, but for a little while. We've learned back in the 80s and 90s, when I learned nutrition, we said you should snack every 2 to 3 hours. We were never letting our body feel any hunger. And now we're learning that that was a huge mistake. And we can tell that, if we look, the average American is overweight or obese. Hello, we've been taught some really incorrect things to do. So what we want is we want a decreased blood sugar between the meals. We want the pancreas to secrete glucagon, which triggers the fat cell breakdown. It's not going to secrete that if it's secreting insulin. So we need to have a break so the body's not secreting insulin. So when glucagon, that tells the liver to start breaking down sugars and things like that. Hey, we need more energy. And so that's going to help release some of the stored things as well. When we are stressed out, this is my biggest trigger. And when we're stressed out, we release cortisol. So remember I said the adrenals can affect blood sugar. Your cortisol goes up. Your body thinks, hey, it doesn't know why your stress level just went up. Mine's probably elevated right now just because I'm talking on here. So sugar goes into the blood, insulin comes out. And so I caught this when I was tracking my blood sugar. For me, it's stress. And so I can eat healthy, but if I'm still under stress, I'm still going to have that. If you're dehydrated, that causes stress on the body. If you're not sleeping well, that causes stress on the body. So we have to make sure we're paying attention to all sorts of things, not just the food. So what we used to think was you need to snack between the meals to keep your blood sugar level. And now we're finding that that is not what you want to do. You need to eat 3 meals a day. The best thing for you to do is to eat a protein-rich breakfast. And I'm not saying sausage. No, we need healthy forms of protein, healthy forms of fat. So like a sausage would be a poor form of fat and a poor form of protein. That is a heated protein that is coagulated, our body is going to have to use a lot of energy to break that down. And so that's not a good form of fat, of protein. We can get protein from greens, from seeds. You can use protein powder if you want more protein, but that is a much better way to start your day. Now, how do you know if you have some sort of insulin resistance? Well, if you do, biochemically, you eat, your blood glucose goes up just like it's supposed to do. Your pancreas secretes the insulin like it's supposed to do. But then your cells don't let the glucose in. So that's like someone stuck some glue, maybe some gum. They put some gum in your keyhole. And so you're sticking the key in there, and maybe you can squeeze it in hard enough and turn the key and get in so the sugar can get in. But then they stick a little bit more gum in there, and the next time you can't get in, and it gets harder and harder. So someone says, well, let me go try another door. And so they're running around. So your blood sugar is staying too high. It's not getting into the cells. And you continue to be hungry because those cells are not getting the sugar that you need. So sometimes you want, you eat, and then 2 hours later, you're like, oh, I am starving. That is a sign, hello, either you did not eat enough, or your blood sugar went up and then it crashed, and you need to get some more food in there. You ate a poor choice for breakfast, or it's just not getting into your cells. So there's some people who genetically can eat whatever they want, and their blood sugars are going to stay stable. There's some people who don't eat the right types of foods. There's some people like me who stress activates their blood sugar. It could be lack of exercise, and it could also be poor sleep. Another thing that can injure your cell receptors, so that's your keyhole, would be the wrong types of fats. And I mentioned that a minute ago. And so if we eat heated fats, like this is one of the reasons why I don't cook with oils. Inflammatory fats, we already know, trans fats, margarine. So a lot of people say, well, I eat vegan butter. Well, if you read the ingredients on your vegan butter, that's margarine. Margarine is not healthy. The same with some of your other fats, especially like animal fats. Those are not healthy. Those can damage your cell receptors. And so a lot of times people will go on like a traditional keto diet where they're eating a lot of meat and fat, and they can stabilize their blood sugars, but they're not fixing the problem. They're not fixing the hinges on those keyholes. They're just not putting as much sugar in the body. And so they still have the damage there. And so what you want to do is reverse the damage. We want to fix all the little keys. We want to get the gum out of the receptors. So other symptoms of insulin resistance are belly fat, low energy. If you eat and then you're tired, that's a sign. If you're hungry a couple of hours after you eat, if you are craving something sweet after you eat, you have that 3 p.m. slump. Oh, I've got to have a coffee or some cookies at 3 o'clock. You have difficulty focusing. If you miss a meal, I used to be like this. If I missed a meal or it took me too long to get breakfast ready, I was cranky or hangry. That is another sign. So how do you know if you have this problem? Number one, see if your doctor will check your hemoglobin A1C. There are even ways you can order it yourself. You can go to Quest Labs or LabCorp. You just Google, and you can actually order your own lab for that. Yes, you have to pay for it. Your insurance may or may not pay for that. But you can usually ask your doctor. Sometimes they'll say, but you don't have diabetes, but they're looking at normal. Your blood, when you look at your blood tests and they have those ranges compare you to someone who is normal. Well, if you look at the average person, like I said, 92% of Americans are metabolically unwell. So normal people are metabolically unwell. I don't want to be normal. I want to be extraordinary. And so I want luckily my doctor just retired, but she would always check my hemoglobin A1C. And so I want to see that and see how I fit in the range. Now, in the meantime, you can always use something like a glucose tester here. Let me see. For some reason, I cannot get my phone. Shoot. I was going to see if I could do it for you, how I do this. Let me see if I'm blocking the other camera. Okay, so here is a test kit. You can see it has this little trigger. You get this little piece here, and you insert a lancet. That's like a needle. You insert it, and then you take this little protective cover off. And they're all similar. You might not have the same exact one. This one's a CVS one. Well, it has these little numbers here. Like this is a 6. It goes usually from like 1 to 6, and you can turn it, and that is how hard the needle is going to inject into your skin to prick your finger. Now my fingers are cold because I'm a little stressed sitting here talking. So I'm going to warm up my fingers to get some blood flow there. Another thing I need is this little tester here that has these little test strips that insert it. Now, the great thing about this little device is it syncs to my phone, so I could even track if I needed to track. But you see, I stuck it in and it lit up, and it will keep track of a little while for a few days, but I can put it on my phone. So what I'm going to do is I haven't eaten since 7 a.m. So it's been almost 5 hours, but like I said, I'm a little stressed being on here, so we'll see what happens. So I pull the trigger, I cock it, I stick it against my finger, and then I just press this little button, and a little needle comes out, and then you can see I start to get a little bit of blood here. I stick in the little test strip, and I touch to the blood. It only takes a little drop, and it has a little countdown. And my blood sugar is 78. And so that is good. I want it should definitely be below 100 before I eat my next meal. Now, what do you want it to be? Ideally, your blood sugar never goes above 140. If it does, then you might want to work on work on it, right? And so there are different ways. We can talk about this in other episodes here, or you can message me if you want to know about a little bit more. All right, now I've got the stuff all on my way. Anyway, I recommend that you test every time you eat until you get a pattern. Most of us, we eat and then our blood sugar peaks around 45 minutes. And so what I did to figure out mine, and what I'm taught in my classes, is after you eat, test every 15 minutes. It'll go up, and then you'll start to see when it's coming back down. Once you see it's coming back down, then you should be fine. And then a couple hours later, test again to see if it goes below where you started from. And so I missed that part. So test before you eat, and then test a few hours later to make sure it doesn't go below. If it goes below, then you're experiencing some hypoglycemia, which means that your leptin went too high. And that is also a sign of leptin resistance. And so that is also, you're having some issues with the cells there. So it should start like, if I ate right now, my blood sugar is at 78. I'm going to test every 15 minutes while it goes up and back down. It should not go over 140. When you're working in a program, you don't want it to go, if you're trying to restore those receptors, we don't even want to go above 110. And so we want to track it and see. Sometimes if you eat a combination of foods, maybe you're eating, I don't know, something I would never eat, like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I absolutely love peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but I definitely can't eat those now. But if I ate something like that, my blood sugar may go up to like 210. And then 2 hours later, maybe it's around 100. And then I check an hour later and it could be like 40 or something, and I'm starving, right? Because my blood sugar went up and then it crashed. But sometimes when you eat a combination like that, if you eat like the peanut butter, which is high in fat, and the bread, which is high in carbs, sometimes that can actually stabilize your blood sugar so it doesn't go so high and so far down. It depends on the type of bread, what else is in it, how you ate it, what else you drink with it, whatever like that. Does that mean it is a healthy food? No. If I ate that bread alone without anything else, my blood sugar is going to go way high and way back down. I ate them together and it didn't do that. And so we think it's healthy, but what happens is the leptin is still released. And if you have leptin resistance where you eat and then you have a crash, then that is not going to be fixed when we eat the peanut butter and jelly. So even though we don't have to pull in as much glucose, or glucose isn't as high, we still have some damage to that keyhole, the little parts in the key. So that may be confusing. I don't know if I explained that well at all, but when I did the Zoe project, I did Zoe last year, which was a stool test, a blood test, and you wore a CGM where you could see what you ate affects your blood sugar. And that's how I learned that really anytime I was under stress, or if I didn't sleep well, my blood sugars were out of control. And so I know I have to work on stress management. I have to work on sleep. But they also teach you how to eat certain foods so that you keep it in balance. So you could have I'm gonna say something stupid, but I could eat like walnuts with a piece of cake and my blood sugar wouldn't spike like it would if I just ate the cake. So does that mean that cake is healthy and I can eat cake? Absolutely not. And if I keep eating the cake with the walnuts every day, then my blood sugars are going to stay fine, but my cells are going to be worse and worse and worse and worse. And, that's going to lead to aging faster, Alzheimer's, heart disease. Something else I didn't even mention, when people are diagnosed with diabetes, it's 126 as your glucose after when they test it. But you start experiencing damage, retinal damage, neuropathy, if it's over 120. And so if you're testing your blood sugar and it's continuously being over 120, you're not even diagnosed with diabetes, but you're already experiencing damage. And there's some optometrists, ophthalmologists that actually have been trained in blood sugar control, and they can see it. I mean, they can tell before your doctor tells you, hey, you have blood sugar problems, by looking at your eyes. And so for me, vision is so important. And so that's another reason why I think it's so important to check your blood sugar. Alzheimer's is in my family, so that scares me, but so is vision. I've had these crazy glasses forever. And so I want to make sure that I'm keeping my blood sugar under control. So when we eat foods like maybe a cold cereal for breakfast. Back in the 90s, we had that food guide pyramid that had grains on the bottom, and it said, now it even says half your grain should be whole, which I think is super silly. So we could have highly processed grains for half and the other half whole. That is definitely not healthy. But why are they on the bottom? Let's look at the farm bill. So that's not for health, that's for money, that's for filling people's pockets. So if we eat something like, for some people, oats can really spike blood sugar. Bananas can really spike blood sugar. So if we eat like an overnight oat bowl, which is something that I eat sometimes too, that has oats and bananas, then that is definitely not the right food for someone who is experiencing insulin resistance. If they instead switch that up for like a chia pudding or a flaxseed pudding, something with a healthy fat. We want to look at chia seeds, hemp seeds, flax seeds, walnuts. Those are omega-3 fatty acids. Those are so important. They actually are converted to what's called DHA, which is in like your cold water fish, and in algae like chlorella and spirulina. But it can convert to those same chemicals, and those actually help your cell receptors. So we want to make sure we're getting those kinds of fats. Almonds, excellent for health. However, they're in a different category. And so if we eat a lot of almonds, maybe we make our breakfast with almond milk, and then we're using other nuts and seeds. Like, I love pumpkin seeds, they're very healthy, but they're in a different pathway. I need to make sure I'm focusing on foods like walnuts, chia seeds, flax seeds, and hemp seeds if I'm concerned about those cell receptors, and for other forms of inflammation. Those are very anti-inflammatory. So if you can find a breakfast where you have greens, maybe a good protein powder. Pea protein is an excellent way. Just make sure you read your ingredients. But a pea protein powder with some chia seeds or flax seeds or hemp seeds and some walnuts. And then some fruit that you can test well. Test. Green apples are usually great. For me, a half a green apple, I do great. If I eat the whole green apple, my blood sugar is going to go up. For some people, blueberries are great. Their blood sugar stays fine. For some people, they eat blueberries and their blood sugar spikes. And so it's very important to test. For me, that's really hard to do because I like to eat complex meals. I like to combine different foods. And so then I test and I can't really tell. It's kind of like that peanut butter sandwich with the bread would spike and the peanut butter would not. My meals kind of do that too. And so I have to make myself just eat one food and test it and see how my body is affected by that. If you are worried about your cells and restoring cell health, then let me know. I've already at the 25-minute mark. So I'm going to wrap it up for today. Since I don't see any other questions, let me just double check on my screen. I do have some things, but nothing about insulin resistance for here. Anyway, please ask questions. I want to make sure that these Q&As help you. I want to know what you want to know more about. If you need help with testing your blood sugar, need help finding out what you should eat for breakfast, what else you should eat during the day, what else you need to know about insulin resistance, I want to help with that too. But thank you for joining me. Let me know if you watch the replay. I love to hear from you. Have a fabulous week.